Hello.
Good morning and welcome back to the Gallic Report. I'm your host, Jessica. This week's special celebrity guest is Edmond Rostand.
Thank you for having me, mademoiselle.
It is an honor to have you on our show.
The pleasure is all mine.
So, Monsieur Rostand, I hear you have a new play coming out soon. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, my new play is called Chanticleer, and it is written in verse like all my other plays beforehand, like Cyrano, I'm sure you've heard of it.
Nay, better for you to have shunned this brawl, here in the heart, through your ribbons gay, in the belly, neath your silken shawl.
Unlike my other plays, however, this play, all the characters are barnyard animals, which makes it really one of a kind. The main character is a rooster who happens to believe that it is his crowing which makes the sun rise and fall each morning and day. Everything goes awry once all the predators of the area plot to kill him because his crowing interrupts their nefarious plans. Well, that's all I can reveal about the plot today. For the rest, you'll have to watch the play for yourself in theaters.
Well, I can't wait to watch it, and I'm sure the audience is just as excited. I'm aware that you have recently moved away from Paris to the more remote countryside of South France. Has this new way of life affected your writing in any way?
Yes, Chanticleer is definitely my most personal play so far. It is an expression of my love for the French countryside, which I moved to in my later years. After my struggle with pleurisy and pneumonia, it was doctor's orders to move somewhere with a milder climate and with less stress. I grew to love the countryside around Cambo, and I designed most of the villa that me and my family live in today myself. I love it so much, and living in the city, I tell you the truth, I lost part of myself, the part of me that loved nature as a boy. So, this play kind of reflects the true me, and that's why it's the most personal of mine. I just, something about it when I moved there, I knew I had to immortalize it into verse. Thank you.
Wow, it seems like you've experienced a lot of variety, both in your writing and your personal interests. Could you tell us a little bit more about your early life and how you started writing plays?
Sure. I was born on April 1st, 1868 in Marseille, France. I had a good childhood. My whole family was into music and literature. I obviously went after them in law, since they were government officials and such. I moved to Paris to study law, and I never returned home much after. But I returned to my passion, literature, and obviously I've made my living through that ever since.
It seems to me that you are a very intelligent and well-educated man. I heard you actually won some awards for your writing in school. Tell us a little bit more about your accomplishments as a young writer.
Well, I studied at Collège Stanislas in Paris from 1884 to 1886, and I was recognized for my abilities in French composition, history, and philosophy. I actually won the prestigious prize of Académie de Marseille for the essay Two Provincial Authors, in which I compared Hoover de Urf and Émile Zola.
Sounds like you're very busy with your studies. Did you have enough time for your social life?
Actually, my love for writing helped me in the social area. I met my wife, Rosamond Girard, because we bonded over our passion for literature. She's a lifelong poet herself, just like me. After all, I consider myself a poet first and foremost. I write all my plays in verse. Call it old-fashioned. It's just the way that I do things. My first book of poems, La Mercedes, is actually dedicated to my wife. It sold horribly, but nonetheless, it's still dedicated to her. Together, we have two beautiful sons, Jean and Maurice. Jean's actually turning into quite the scientist himself.
Oh, is that so? And what of Maurice?
Oh yeah, Maurice is there also.
Sir Rostand?
I merely kid. He writes exquisite poetry just like his father, if I do say so myself.
Do you have any advice for Maurice or any other aspiring writers out
The
there?
best advice I could give to an aspiring person of any craft was to never give up on something if you're truly passionate about it. My first foray into the art of theatrical dramatization was a collaborative effort between me and my stepbrother. It was called Le Gant Rouge. It was an abject failure. It was horrible. It failed critically and commercially. It wasn't until I wrote my first play in verse with a lighter theme called La Romanesque, which was a lighter take on the classic Romeo and Juliet Shakespearean tragedy.
Oh yes, that play was one for the ages. Now, I'm sure you're sick and tired of people constantly asking you about your most famous play, Cyrano de Bergerac. help but wonder what internal or external factors inspired you to write such a unique vision of a story.
I actually wrote Cyrano partly because I was inspired by a couple of friends. La Princesse Fontaine, the play after my first successful one, wasn't received very well at all. The play failed critically and commercially, even though I had Sarah Bernhardt, an esteemed actress, heading up the role as a protagonist. After that, I took it personally and I lost the motivation to write. It wasn't until Sarah and our friend Constance Coquelin were extremely supportive and got me out of my slump and encouraged me to write Cyrano de Bergerac. I had been quite disgusted with the modernist and cynical route French art and theater had been taking in years past. Thus I sought to approach timeless themes from a more classic perspective, a more idealistic, patriotic, proud, uplifting narrative with lessons for the soul in it, written in verse, just like all the classics. None of this humdrum contemporary theater, all drab. This was not the same craft which had inspired my love for the theater.
Interesting. Was it based on a true story?
Well, not entirely. The real Cyrano was a 17th century poet, known for his noble spirit and inability to compromise or surrender. That is what inspired me. His quick wit and great intelligence. The nose part of the fictional Cyrano, I exaggerated somewhat to add to the drama of the play. But, you know, the heart of Cyrano was a real person. And the values that he holds are timeless and valuable to us all.